through the lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep fitting in.
What's popping, people? What is popping? It's G. You already know what time it is. You know what it is. You can see on the screen what we're here. Today's show, summer transfer target. I ain't got a clue. What number are we actually on at this current moment in time? We've obviously taken a look at, a host of players, throughout this summer. We've done a fair few scout watches as well, and the Premier League season is upon us. It is going to be kicking off for Liverpool very, very soon with their first game against Chelsea. But still, the summer window is not over. It is not done. And Liverpool still need to get some business done. Obviously, at the time of this video, Liverpool are still in the market for some defensive reinforcements. I can't even tell you what position. I just know some level of defensive reinforcements. And one player who has been linked with other teams, hasn't been linked with Liverpool, to be fair. Young player, he's only 18 years of age. Obviously, Ivan Fresnada plays for Real Valladolid in La Liga. They got relegated last season, so they will be going to the second tier in Spain. But he was a very, 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 very good player for them. I watched him actually play against Madrid. I think they played away. Madrid was in the black kit. So yeah, I think Madrid were playing away. And I watched him in that game. And, that was really the first time I'd heard his name, but not really seen him play, so to speak. Watched him in that game. And I thought, bloody hell, this guy's doing all right against Vinicius. Do you know what I mean? He's really, really putting up. And at the time, I just thought, sometimes you just think certain players, he looks older than he actually is, kind of thing, which really did surprise me, if I'm being totally honest with you. As I mentioned, he's only 18 years of age, Spanish under-19 international. So I thought he was older. So, checked him out, found out he was still young. So I thought, all right, fair enough. Maybe, them coming of age type of games, so to speak. But in essence, I mean, he's played 24 times this season. So, he's not just played a couple games here and there and, he's being thrown to the wolves and all that kind of stuff. He is a player, who has played quite a fair few amount of games this season. And I think when we're looking at someone like him now, a bit like Devine Rents that we looked at, who plays for Ajax, he's come through, the system. He was of youth career. He was actually at Real Madrid, between 2014, 2018. And then there's obviously Leganes and then obviously Valladolid. He's not played that many games, for the first team. This really being his first kind of outing, so to speak, But when we're looking at certain players, and this is why I get so onto the Conor Bradleys, even the Curtis Jones to a certain degrees, and other various players. When we're looking at these kind of players, sometimes, of course, it's just luck. It like in terms of you got a chance, like Trent Alexander-Arnold, you get a chance. There's a spot for you in the team. You take that chance. Not everybody does, but once you take it, it's now yours. Trent, right back position, even though he was a central midfielder and all of that kind of stuff. No problem. But sometimes you kind of need to work your way into that kind of team. Now, Real Valladolid are not a good team. Yeah, as I mentioned, they got relegated. So they're not a good team anyway. So it's going to be easier, so to speak, for him to be a part of that team and potentially shine. That's how I look at it when teams who are really, really poor, like Lavia's, players of this kind of ilk, I look at them and think it's easier for you to shine in these kind of teams because it's not going to take much for you to stand out if the team, in a general sense, is actually kind of poor. It's harder for you to shine in a top team. Do you know what I mean? Of course it is. That's why the top players are called the world-class players, because they shine in these top teams. Kevin De Bruyne, Lionel Messi, Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland. These players, they shine in these teams which are just full of amazing players. So when you're looking at it, I'm looking at him, by the way, and again, I'm not saying he's off those kind of levels or anything like that. But Liverpool in that kind of right back area, it's a funny one. Because I don't know what the hell Jurgen Klopp wants to do with that right back position, because obviously he's got Trent there, plays the inverted role. Conor Bradley has played it during this pre-season, Have I been impressed? Not really. But then again, should I be expecting it? Probably not. The only level of football that he has played is obviously in League One for Bolton. Is that giving you enough experience to be able to, stand you in good stead? And also just but he's a decent player. Like, I don't want to diss Conor Bradley here, but when I look at the two, Fresnada, and when I look at, Conor Bradley, I look at Fresnada, and it might just be because he's got that experience, he's got the legs, senior level, playing in the top leagues and stuff like that. It might just be that. And if that's the case, fair enough. But I look at him, strong specimen on that right hand side, quick, athletic, fantastic work rate. He's only 18 years of age. I look at Conor Bradley, he's got athleticism. He's decent. But I look at that and I think, yeah, you're decent at that level. Do you know what I mean? And with no disrespect to Bolton or even League One, but I feel like you were decent. You were really, you're decent to good actually at that level. But then I look at him and Fresnada, and I think to myself, combined with your other attributes, wouldn't you work out to be a better player? In this type of system, because in my opinion, you look more athletic than Conor Bradley. Um, you look like you're even able to play in a centre back position as well, which is obviously versatile, which is kind of what we're looking at. And I'm not saying he is a centre back by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like he'll be comfortable, in that kind of position. So I look at these kind of things, and it is these kind of things that I will look at. I mean, as I mentioned before, obviously playing in that centre back, he's played there centre back twice, 19 times obviously as right back this season. He's played left midfield twice and right midfield. So again, the versatility, we already know Klopp loves a versatile player. So these are the little things that I look at, but you can see it in his game anyway, even in the way that he defends. And obviously we'll get into, we'll take a look, statistically and stuff like that, just in terms of, how he compares and, X, Y, and Z. But just when we're looking at, his heat map here, you can see it there, straight off the rip. On that right hand side, that's really his game. That's really his thing. As you can see, he's also appeared, in these other positions. And I think he's actually, I wouldn't say on the left midfield, I would call him comfortable, so to speak. What I would say is just more that was needs must, when he's obviously had to play there. But when I'm looking at him in terms of the profile of individual, stylistically as well, we're definitely looking at a player who I think could potentially work for Liverpool. And we are kind of looking for someone who is comfortable down that right hand side. I know we want to do the inverted thing, which I do think he could potentially do as well, a lot better than a Conor Bradley. Because again, he just looks like he's more mature. And I think that's heavily important when you're trying to play in this kind of system for Liverpool, is that you do need that, because we've got very frail kind of players, these young players, as good and talented as they might actually be, none of them really look mature enough to really, play at this level. And because of the intensity that we play with, we're going to need players with that level of maturity. I look at Fresnada, he's been courted by both Arsenal, Barcelona, and other clubs around Europe. There's a reason for that. But then, and the other part of me, which is why it's funny that I've included him in this list, is that I look at him and I think, because of this, you're Spanish, so obviously you got that kind of footballing kind of schooling. We don't have that. Are you going to come in here and just be used in a way that's not going to be beneficial for you? I don't really know. But your skill set says that you could fit into this kind of team. So you are an interesting prospect. I believe his release clause is about 10 million euros. But apparently that will go up to potentially even 45 million euros once he's played a certain amount of games. So I don't know if it's hit that target yet. I don't know if it's at that kind of number at this current moment in time. But if it's still low, it might be, I think it goes 10, and then I think it would go up to like 20 to 30 and then 45. But let's say it's in the middle part, just for the sake of argument. I think if you're looking at that, it's an interesting prospect. He's young as well, so wouldn't obviously count to be an overseas player, maybe under the age of 21. So would we have to register him? I don't think so. So again, these are the kind of things that I'm thinking about. This is if you don't want to sound like a Kyle Walker Peters that everyone keeps talking about. If you don't want to sign those kind of players, then fair enough. Again, it is what it is. But again, it's just more skill set that I'm looking at, and how effective he can be both in defense and in the Liverpool attack. But ultimately, we want to know what his style of play is like anyway. So let's kind of dive in. And, it's like I mentioned before about his tackling, his defending. He's very good in 1v1 situations. As I mentioned, obviously before about the physical presence, that he does have, using the aggression and the technique to get the job done. His best instincts, maybe the part as he can utilize that good pace to make interceptions, chance stopping efforts, when he's in cover, technique wise as well. He positions his body really, really well when he's both on and off the ball. And it's the way his hips pause, the way his hips swivel when he is defending. That tells me straight away that he's smart about what he's actually, necessarily trying to do. So again, these are the kind of small little details, the small little things, would I say, necessarily that we might potentially, be looking for. And you can see here, obviously, him coming inside, playing a bit more infield when he does receive the ball. He's got a good turn on him as well, good dribbling ability, should I say, technique on the ball. And then obviously when he does get himself into these further areas, in the attacking third of the pitch, he does seem to be a player who does possess quite a lot of talent. In the attack, utilizes obviously his dominant right foot, got good passing range from that right flank. Statistically, he's okay, but again, young, 18, playing for one of the worst teams in that league as well. The stats are pretty good when you actually compare it to other players. He's got a decent cross on him as well, and he's someone who creates quite a lot of chances. When I was looking at the stats and the numbers before, he does seem like a player who will create chances. And as much as he's not creating the most chances necessarily for, he's creating a lot of chances for Real Valladolid, but in comparison to, would I say, the other right backs out there, of course you're going to look at that and think, maybe not. Maybe not, if I'm being totally honest with you. We'll even take a look here, actually, to be honest with you, with his numbers and things like that, if you guys bear with me. So you guys can obviously see here on your damn screens. Not yet. Let's take a look. Boom, boom. So boom. Obviously, you guys can. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties and all that rubbish. But you guys can obviously see here, in terms of his statistics and things like that, just kind of what he is obviously bringing to the table, blocks, clearances. He's decent in that kind of regards as well. We'll take a kind of a bigger look at what he kind of looks like. Scroll down here. So you guys can obviously see there, straight off the rip. If we scroll down to defensively, you can see, he ranks pretty high, if I'm being totally honest with you. If I can enlarge that for you guys. You guys can see it on the screen. So yeah, let's do it live. Let's do it live. Yeah, but yeah, as I said, defensively, you guys can obviously see here. Obviously, the first thing here, tackles highlighted, 2.48 per 90, really, really good, 79th percentile, tackles won, 1.76 per game. You can see blocks, you can see passes blocked, shots blocked. He's going to have to do quite a lot of that playing for one of the worst teams, in the league. In possession, he's okay, in terms of the touches in defenders' penalty area. It's not the best. And this is why it's like, it's got to be context. Everyone's going to be context regardless. And also, he's not the finished article, but it is looking at him playing for one of the worst teams. And for me, when you're looking at something like his statistics and stuff like that, as much when they are good, you almost have to applaud it because of the team that he's playing in. When they are bad, it is obviously about the context. Still got to look at it regardless, because you can't take away from the fact that it's not ranking as highly as it should be. But at the same time, you always look at the context behind, these kind of things. And you got to look at both sides, whether you look at that as a positive or a negative, regardless of anything, you've obviously got to look at that, from both sides of things. And you can see, fouls committed per game, 0.67, not too high. So to speak, even though he is playing, for a worse team. But, like I say, statistically, he's okay. But I think it's more stylistically when I'm looking at him. Again, the eye test, just depends on how you realistically want to, judge a player and how you kind of view things, so to speak. When you're looking at these kind of players, it just depends on what you're necessarily looking for. When he does get in these attacking areas, is that what you're looking for a player who's able to get beyond, potentially your right winger or your right midfielder, whatever that is, be able to come inside, put those balls into the box, create chances, for for your teammates. He's good at these little third man runs as well. Getting into that space, in the attacking third. Probably should have more goals if I'm being totally honest with you. And he seems to always find himself in yards of space as well. So again, I'm looking at that because he's got the athleticism, because he's got the work rate, because he's got the stamina, the energy to be able to get up and down the field. That's going to help us. And I think he's a lot better than, say, a Gomez. When Gomez gets into these kind of positions, you can almost tell, yeah, he's blatantly a central defender at the bare minimum kind of thing, because you can see he's just not comfortable on that right hand side, which is fine because he's more of a defensive right back, so to speak. But I want a right back who can do both sides. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Where you are good going forward, but also coming back. And I think he could develop into a really, really good and tidy player. Someone who can keep possession, someone who knows how to obviously retain possession, know how to pick out passes, understanding of the game, all of these kind of things. But you guys can kind of probably tell when it comes to certain players, I have a type of player that I like, and I've got a style of football that I like, in terms of the tiki-taka stuff. I'm from that kind of school. That's for me the best football I think we'll see for a long, long time. In regards to revolutionizing football in a general sense. But yeah, I think it's just one of those kind of things. When it comes to Fresnada, still young, only 18 years of age. Is he the finished article? No. Is he someone who comes into the team straight away? No, because obviously Trent is obviously going to be there. But is he a good backup option? In my opinion, yes. But let me know what you guys obviously think in the comment section. In regards to Fresnada, as I mentioned, obviously Arsenal, Barcelona, these kind of teams are looking at him. Why are they looking at him? What's their style of play? Will that then match Liverpool's style of play? Probably not. But is there something he can do, within this team? Let me know what you think in the comment section before. I'm G, and we outie, man.